Here is section 1, 500 words, of your faceless short story titled. Title: One Night, No Fine. Just 13 inches. A true infidelity story. Section 1. The cracks before the storm, 500 words. It started the way most endings do. Quietly, unnoticed, like a slow leak beneath a floorboard. I had been with Mark for almost 7 years. Comfortable, safe, predictable. We had a rhythm. Breakfast in silence, workdays apart, dinner with phones in our hands, and lights out before any words passed between us. Some nights he'd roll over, kiss my cheek, and whisper a tired "love you." Most nights he'd just sleep. There was no big fight. No cheating. No violence. Just emptiness. I told myself for months that this was normal. That real love settles into a routine. But deep down I missed the spark, the pulse of connection. I missed being seen, being touched, being wanted. It was a Thursday when I saw him again. Jason. We hadn't spoken in over 2 years. He used to work out at the same gym as me before he moved cities. The kind of guy who didn't just look at you, he saw you. I remember the way he used to hold eye contact just a second longer than necessary, like a secret was being exchanged without words. He looked exactly the same. Tall, confident, smirking like he knew things he shouldn't. When he said my name, it wasn't casual, it was familiar. It felt like being remembered after feeling invisible for so long. We caught up over coffee inside the gym lounge. Innocent. But something about the way he sat across from me, the way his fingers casually brushed mine when handing over the cup, made my heart race in a way it hadn't in years. I blamed the caffeine. I didn't tell Mark. There was nothing to tell, really. That night, lying beside him in bed, I turned to face him and whispered, "Do you still find me attractive?" He didn't even open his eyes. "Of course I do," he mumbled before rolling over. And just like that, silence again. The next day, Jason texted, "Good seeing you yesterday. You haven't changed at all. Still just as distracting." I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering above the screen. Could have ignored it. Should have. But instead I replied, "Nice seeing you too. Thanks." I think. From there it escalated slowly. Few messages here and there. Harmless flirting. Inside jokes. It felt good to laugh again. At something that wasn't forced. With someone who didn't look through me. By the end of the week, he asked if I wanted to grab a drink. Just one. Just catching up. I told myself I'd go for the conversation. The nostalgia. Not for what I knew was building under the surface. Not for the feeling I hadn't let myself feel in a very long time. But deep down I knew. And I still said yes. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. The temptation and the tension. Here is section 2, 500 words, of your faceless short story titled. Title: One Night, No Fine. Just 13 inches. A true infidelity story. Section 2. The temptation and the tension, 500 words. I told myself I'd only stay an hour. The bar was dim, tucked away downtown, the kind of place with soft jazz in the background and worn-out leather booths. I wore jeans and a black top. Casual, simple. But when I caught Jason's eyes lingering a second too long, I knew he noticed. He stood as I walked in, smiling that same mischievous smile. He hugged me like we were old lovers, not forgotten acquaintances. His hand stayed on my back a little longer than it should have. I didn't pull away. We talked like no time had passed. His voice was smooth, his stories animated, and his compliments laced with subtle intention. "You know," he said as he stirred his drink, "I used to wonder what it would be like to kiss you." I laughed nervously. "Back then." He tilted his head. "Back then. And maybe still." I should have shut it down. I should have reminded him that I had someone waiting for me at home. But instead I just looked down at my glass and smiled. The conversation drifted. Relationships, routines, the numbness that creeps in over time. I was more honest with Jason in that hour than I'd been with Mark in years. I told him how I felt invisible. How sometimes I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. He didn't offer solutions. He just listened. "I never understood how someone like you could feel unseen," he said softly. There was a pause. That kind of charged silence that says more than words ever could. We left the bar just after midnight. The air was warm, but I felt cold under my skin, shaking from nerves, maybe from excitement. He walked me to my car. I was supposed to say goodbye. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at him and asked, "Do you want to keep talking? Maybe somewhere quieter?" He didn't hesitate. His apartment was only 10 minutes away, but the car ride felt like an hour. Every minute, the air thickened with what we both knew was coming. My heart pounded, but I didn't stop him. I didn't even stop myself. When we walked inside, he offered water, made some half-joke about how we were just talking, but his eyes betrayed his words. I stood there by the kitchen counter. He walked up behind me, close but not touching. I could feel his breath on my neck. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I didn't. I turned to face him, and before I could think, before I could speak, his lips were on mine. The kiss was slow, deep, like it had been waiting for years. I melted into it, not because I was drunk, not because I was lonely, but because, in that moment, I wanted it. I needed it. The last thing I remember before everything faded into the blur of heat and movement was him leading me to the bedroom. His voice in my ear. "You don't even know what you've been missing. Let me know when you're ready for section 3. One night, 13 inches of truth. Here is section 3, 500 words, of your faceless short story titled. Title: One Night, No Fine. Just 13 inches. A true infidelity story. Section 3. One night, 13 inches of truth, 500 words. The bedroom was dimly lit, just the glow from a street lamp slipping through half-open blinds. I stood at the edge of the bed, frozen for a moment, wondering if I was about to destroy everything, or finally feel something real. Jason walked up behind me, kissed the back of my neck and whispered, "Still time to stop." But I didn't stop. I didn't even think. Clothes peeled away slowly. Layer by layer, hesitation fell with each thread. He was patient, almost reverent, like he was reading my body instead of just touching it. And when I saw him fully, I gasped. Not just at the size, but at the sheer presence of him. 13 inches. That wasn't just a number. It was a warning. Promise. Surrender. The first touch was overwhelming. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Every nerve felt alive again. Every moan I'd silenced in my relationship, every need I'd buried, came crashing to the surface. He held me like I was fragile, then moved like he knew I wasn't. I'd never felt so full, literally, emotionally. It was intense, almost too much at times. My body fought to adjust, stretching to take him in. He paused when I needed to breathe, kissed my shoulder when I arched away, then pulled me closer as if saying, "Don't run from this. Feel it." And I did. It wasn't just the size. It was the energy, the unspoken understanding. He listened to every gasp, every shift of my hips, every time I whispered, "Wait. Okay, more, yes." With Mark, things had become mechanical, predictable. Finish quick and sleep. But this was art. Jason didn't just want to finish. He wanted to unravel me. There were moments I forgot where I was, who I was. The guilt faded under waves of pleasure I hadn't felt in years. It was like I was floating. No thoughts, just sensation. Time warp. Maybe it was minutes. Maybe an hour. When it finally ended, we lay there in silence, bodies tangled, skin damp, breath heavy. Jason reached over, brushed a strand of hair from my cheek and said, "You deserved that. Every second of it." I didn't reply. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, chest tight. Not because I regretted it, but because I didn't. That scared me more than anything. In one night, everything I thought I knew about myself, my loyalty, my love, it cracked open. What I needed wasn't flowers or promises. It was to be seen, held, and wanted without conditions. 13 inches of truth. It wasn't just his body I let in. It was a version of myself I thought had died long ago. Let me know when you're ready for section 4. The aftermath, regret or realization. Here is section 4, 500 words, of your faceless short story titled. Title: One Night No Fine. Just 13 inches. A true infidelity story. Section 4. The aftermath, regret or realization. 500 words. I left just before sunrise. Jason was still asleep, arms stretched across the empty side of the bed, a faint smile on his lips like the night was still holding him. I dressed quietly, careful not to wake him. My body ached not from pain, but from being stretched, exposed, filled in every way I didn't know I needed. As I stepped into the cool morning air, reality came crashing in like a tidal wave. Every step back to my car felt heavier than the last. The adrenaline was gone. What remained was silence, shame, and something even worse, clarity. The drive home was a blur. I stared blankly at traffic lights, gripping the steering wheel as if I could squeeze the guilt out of my fingers. The city slowly came alive around me, but I felt detached from it all. Like I had crossed into a version of myself I didn't fully recognize. When I opened the front door, everything was exactly as I left it. Quiet, ill, lifeless. Mark was in bed, snoring lightly. I stood there and watched him sleep, his chest rising and falling peacefully. He looked innocent, unbothered, unaware that something inside me had changed forever. I slipped into the shower, letting the water scald my skin like it could wash away the memory. The touch, the sounds. But it clung to me. Not like a stain, more like a secret I didn't want to let go of. Later that day, Mark asked if I wanted to go to dinner, something we hadn't done in months. He was trying, I could tell. But I couldn't look him in the eye. Not yet. I spent the next few days stuck between two versions of myself. The one who had always done the right thing, stayed loyal, stayed quiet, stayed small. And the version who breathed life again for just one night. The one who let herself feel everything. Was it wrong? Absolutely. But was it honest? For the first time in years, I understood what I had been missing. It wasn't just sex. It was being wanted without asking. Being devoured without shame. Being seen as someone worthy of passion, not just partnership. I haven't told Mark. I don't know if I ever will. Some nights, I still lie awake replaying the memory. Not out of lust but out of reflection. That night didn't fix anything. Didn't make me whole. But it held up a mirror, and I couldn't look away. Infidelity isn't always about betrayal. Sometimes, it's a cry from the part of you that's been starving in silence. Sometimes, one night doesn't ruin everything. It reveals everything. Let me know if you'd like the entire story formatted as a single document or adapted into a script or narration text for a faceless video.